super excited to have you guys all in this 12-week program. Very, very looking forward to journeying this with you guys. I thought we'll start this call with a bit of like background on why Germinate, right? How this all started. So I would love to give you guys a bit of backstory on why we are here today, right? Once again. What's going on? Cool. So just this all started, the whole business, it all started back in 2010, right? So in 2010, I finished my master's in business and IT from Melbourne Business School. And I was kind of teaching businesses on how to use technology and how to use software in their business, right? And then at some point, I'm like, I got to stop teaching this and start doing this for businesses, right? That's when in 2011 is when I registered a company and started doing what was before called OMAD, right? And we used to do a lot of things starting from websites, ERP, software, SEO, pretty much everything to do with in the IT space. So we worked with like all sort of clients, starting from your local small businesses like your loan brokers to dentists to earth truck companies, to range of bigger companies as well, doing SEO, digital marketing, lots of different things. And as I was doing this business, the app started taking off and we started doing a handful of app projects back in 2011, 2012. They are the early days of apps. We built one of the very first apps that went on the App Store for a home loan company here in Melbourne called Citywide Home Loans. That was like the first home loan calculator app, right? And then I just found myself enjoying it so much, the process of building apps and the whole journey of, delivering the whole complex software in a piece of phone on your hand just excited me so much. So I kind of then focused the business into just developing apps and mobile apps and web apps, right? So the business kind of transformed from doing a lot of things to just focusing on the app development side of things, right? And in that journey, again, we worked with big enterprises like Adidas, Lendlease, L'Oreal. If you go to the Adidas showroom in Melbourne and Sydney and Brisbane, there's a kiosk app where you can order their products and browse through products. We built that for Adidas. L'Oreal salons, all their training app in L'Oreal, we built that. But we also worked with a lot of startup founders, right? And what I've realized in the journey is I just felt so much more connection, meaning, and purpose working with founders, right? Particularly first-time founders and non-technical founders who are just entering this world, from a completely different background, right? A lot like you, most of you guys, whether you're running a music academy or running a road safety business, so going from that world to going completely into an app world. So I found so much meaning and purpose and passion in that. And around 2016, we kind of focused the business completely on working with founders. So our mission became clearer than ever, right? So the main purpose of AppMate, why we exist, is helping founders succeed, right? And while working with lots and lots of founders, what we also learned is building the app is just only one piece of the puzzle, right? A lot of these people go and build their app and they go to the market and then they don't have much clue about what to do after that, right? Whether it be going to market or whether it be fundraising for further marketing and development and growth of the business. So a lot of them got stuck at that point, right? And that's when I started talking to a lot of investment companies, venture capitalists, angel investors, and then partnered with the capital company as well, Copperstone Capital. You'll be listening from Oscar in some of the future sessions, and launched the Germinate program, to kind of meet that gap of on top of building the apps as well, right? And that's how we are here. I just want to set that scene because like the whole purpose of this is to really see you guys succeed, right? To see you guys all become successful. That's the sole purpose of running this. So I want to, start the call with that. So a bit of housekeeping before we move on. So the sessions, it's going to be Tuesday, 10:30 a.m. It'll be mostly me running most of the sessions. You'll also hear from Oscar, who's from Copperstone Capital. Irene, who's our product marketer, she'll also be running a couple of sessions on marketing and go-to-market strategy and things like that. So yeah, for the call, we'll be on Zoom. I would appreciate if you guys have your cameras on, so the call can be interactive. We can all see each other and feel like we are working in a group. And what's important for these sessions is participation. So I would love all of you guys to be able to participate. So having your camera on is super helpful. Even if you turn it off when you're going away, and I'll do a couple of things when you come back on and invite your participation. And also by being part of this, we all agree to treating everyone's idea and business plans and whatever comes out of the session, treat them, with respect and with privacy and with confidentiality. You'll also have tasks to complete in between sessions. So by end of this session, we'll give you a couple of tasks to complete between now and next week. So that really is gonna decide how much progress you can make in the next few weeks here with us as well. So yeah, so make sure you can spend some time on completing those tasks between the sessions. And during the session, I'll be delivering some information and imparting some experience, knowledge, and wisdom with you guys. But also I want to spend a lot of the time during our calls on question and answers. You have any questions around what we talk about, and hearing feedback from myself and also anyone else that might have feedback, we'll hear that as well. You guys will be invited to Slack channel, so we can ask questions there. You'll be given weekly updates there too. So Slack is where we're gonna come together, communicate with other participants, and then we'll be creating a Miro board for you. I'll be creating your business plan and everything on the Miro board. So that will happen probably in week 2 and week 3. Yeah, so that's a bit of housekeeping. So what I want to do from here before I go on into today's session is for the room to get who else is in the audience. So I would like you guys to kind of introduce yourself, name, bit of background about yourself, maybe where you're from and what you do, and then maybe describe the problem you're solving. You don't have to exactly describe your app or your idea, but talk about, okay, this is the problem I'm trying to solve with my app, right? And one more fun, quick equation to finish that with is, if you had unlimited resources, unlimited time, how would you spend your life? How would you spend your day? So we could do that in popcorn style, or I can just invite people in the order that I see on my laptop, if you guys want to do it that way.
How about I just open it? I can open the batting for those who I haven't spoken to in this room as well, if that helps. I'll give a little introduction. So a little bit of my background to give 35, 40 seconds. I started my journey previous to AppOmate in the HRIS and payroll space, also working in the corporate sort of space there as well. Found myself becoming increasingly dissatisfied with the corporate space. I actually then was approached by another app development company previous to that, and I spent 4.5 years at that particular place. Was a great place to work, but found myself increasingly frustrated with the inability to be able to work with startups myself. And lo and behold, that's when Brath reached out to me and told me about his journey and told me where he wants to be able to take this business. And it really resonated with what I wanted out of my own career as well. So I basically put my hand up and said, let me join if I possibly can. And Brath bestowed that upon me, which I thought was really fantastic. And I get to join your journey as much as I possibly can through the journey with you and through the Germinate program and design phases and development phases, and hopefully get to see you and see you grow as a business. That's something that's super exciting for me. And what is also really important is the work that you guys do in this phase that actually makes it easier for the next person to come along, because we have the ability to be able to reach more people and tell your journey and tell your story for you as well, to give the people who want to be able to take that leap the confidence to be able to do exactly what you're doing right now. So really should all pat yourselves on the back for getting to this point, because it is a difficult decision. It's a risk. And I'm glad to see you all taking that risk as well, because I truly believe that every single one of you have got something great and something lucrative that could really unlock what you're all looking for, that potential as well. So thank you for joining. Appreciate it.
No, I'll jump in and do the same then, so that we can get all of us done first. So, yeah, similar. Gosh, I definitely want to reiterate what Zane said about just loving being in the space where people are kind of choosing their future, right? You've got something you're super passionate about and you're choosing to move forward with it. And I absolutely want to applaud that every time. I'm a huge fan of the startup process. I was in the corporate world many years ago, and was similarly quite dissatisfied with that, and left that to start my own ecom business, which was so much fun. And then moved on to working in sales and just really enjoying the whole sales process and just having great conversations with people. Like if I can spend my time having great conversations with people and then helping them also to kind of live their dream and really step into the life that they want to have and the business they want to have and having the impact that they want to have, I'm happy every single day. So I'm super keen to be here for all of you guys and to see you guys doing that as well. And to jump into the Germinate program as well with you. It's very exciting for me.
Thank you, Stevie.
Let me go
Maybe,
next. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Shanda.
Yeah, I'm Shanta. Like I'm working with Bharat for past 4 years. I'm glad I chose Appamate to work with. It's one of the best companies to work with, and like I'm taking care of the some of the marketing activities, and I'm as executive assistant in Appamate. So if you guys need anything from me, you guys can directly email me if Bharat or Zain is not available. Thanks for joining us in a Germinate program. Thank you all. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Shanta. Thank you, guys. I might just like invite our people in the order that I see on my screen. Josh, if you wanna kind of quickly introduce yourself. I put 3 questions there on the slide. Introduce yourself, bit of problem you're solving, and if you had unlimited, no concern for time and money, what would you be doing with your time? With your day?
Yeah, thanks, Barath. Yeah, so I'm Josh. I'm an aviation rescue firefighter. Been doing that for a bit over 10 years now. Normal sized family, 2 pretty active kids, wife, homeowner, into a lot of sports, mountain biking. And yeah, my app idea is based around sports and sporting trips specifically. And the problem I'm trying to solve is being able to book a sporting trip with a group of people or groups of people to go and see multiple sporting events on the same weekend or within the same time frame or in a particular place that you can all be. So organise games, organise sports teams and your group, pair that up with a wallet, and then be able to click through and book all of your tickets through the app, and everybody's got their tickets on their phone. It's all come from your group's pool of money, and yeah, it saves the problem that I've been through many times booking trips with mates, which is going through seasons of rugby, football, basketball, narrowing down everybody's favourite sides, booking separate tickets through different organisations, and trying to get everyone who's free on the same weekend.
Awesome.
And yeah, we've got the prototype there, and these guys have done an amazing job so far of hitting all of those buttons. And yeah, to this point, it's more than what I probably expected, which is pretty cool too. So yeah, excited about it.
And if you had unlimited money, what would you do with it, mate? Unlimited time and money, what would you be doing?
I'd move down the East Coast full time here in Tassie, and I would be riding my bike all day. That'd be it for me. I'd be riding all morning and then swimming in the afternoon.
Love it.
And
Love
probably
it.
still running kids around to sporting events, but anyway.
They'd be joining more sports because Dad's got more time.
Yeah, wouldn't that be good?
Amazing. Wonderful, Josh.
Thanks.
Love to help make that happen. Next on the list is Nathan. If you'd like to share a bit of that from your side.
You're on mute there, Streety. Just have to unmute yourself, mate.
Unmute.
There you go.
There you go.
How are we going now?
Yeah, beautiful.
There we go. Very good. All right. So, good day, everybody. My name's Nathan Street. I like to be known as Streety, and I'm a father of two, a grandfather of four. I'm also a traffic controller by profession. I've been doing traffic control now for some 16 years as a team leader in traffic control, and that's what brings me here today. Is a problem, is a massive problem that I've recognised, and so I hope to fix some real issues that I've become aware of in my industry. The criticalness of this is well, the outcomes from this could actually lead to deaths and financial ruin. So they're problems that really need addressing, and we need to have a tool to fix those problems. So my main problems start at the planning process of road construction and road traffic management. And so our problems at the top increase by the time they come to the implementation stage. So we've got some real concerns. So it starts in the planning process of traffic control, which my app will hopefully address. So at the top level of the planning process, we're having breakdowns in communication, ease of use, access, and accuracy. And this, so when I done a recent, as a part of my job, a critical part of my job is each day I turn up to the work site and I do a site inspection, a Take 5 risk assessment. And so in that Take 5 risk assessment, I'm assessing any hazards and the risks associated to those hazards. Now, so I generally only do a risk assessment on job sites, on actual job sites as a team leader. It's the first job I do when I get to the job site, so it's very important. I do my take.
That's amazing. I just wanted to quickly interrupt because I think that's a great intro to get started in terms of your app. I just want to give it just a quick 2 minutes intro so we can, we got 7 more people, and if you don't mind, but great intro. We got what your app is. We'll be delving more into that as we go into the next 12 sessions. Like today, at the end of the day, we'll be spending some time on the workflow, so you'll have the opportunity to dive in more into what you're sharing now. And in terms of the last question, like if you had unlimited time and resources, what would you be doing with your time? Just a quick 15-second answer.
Well, I just don't know, mate. If I had opportunity, I'd like to keep myself busy. So, you guys might have started something that you might have started something yet. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't say that I'd just be. It really does give me. I have no real opportunity at this point in retirement. So the thought of having the opportunity of a real retirement would be an ultimate goal. But you could have possibly started something that, retirement might be just put on the shelf for a little bit. I just don't know. This is
maybe we can help fund that retirement for you, Trudy.
You just sucked me into something I never thought was possible. So amazing. I don't know where this future could lead me, quite frankly.
Brilliant.
Amazing.
But
thanks for that,
I really do appreciate the opportunity. It's it could be definitely life changing for me.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing. We hope so too. Next is Philly. Yeah, and I would invite you guys to, we got 3 more people in the sharing. So if you can keep it to a couple of minutes, 1 minute about yourself, a minute about, the problem you're solving, and a minute about what you would do with your time. So keep it to 2 to 3 minutes in total. Philly, you go next.
Fantastic.
Philly, is that how you pronounce your name?
That's it. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Great. I'll make it short as possible. My name is Philly, guys. came in Australia in 2005. I'm from West Africa, Ivory Coast. My parents been running a grocery store here for almost 15 years. So through that, we just started a website for last 2 years ago. From starting that website, we got a lot of inquiry from people asking for different product that we don't have, but we know other businesses around us do have. But we get that also. From that, we got an idea of building a marketplace platform where we can introduce most African groceries, ethnic groceries, and put it all in one platform where anyone can go and search whatever spice, grocery they're looking for. And we'll also do the last mile delivery to their doorstep as well. And also promote each small businesses, get them that little rise up, get them that little financial freedom that it deserves as well. In a little nutshell, that's about it, basically. Yeah, thank you.
I see.
That's great. And if you had unlimited time and resources, what would you be working on, Philly?
Oh, if I had limited time and resources, goodness. I was thinking about it, but I didn't have enough time. I would probably be playing football because I am a footballer. I used to play football professionally overseas. Then I came back here, left that because of COVID. So I would like to go back into that, a little bit of freedom of mind but yeah.
Amazing.
Take more caps than Didier Drogba for the Cote d'Ivoire, mate.
Something like that.
Thank you, Philly. Russell, you're next, and then Eliza.
Thanks, Brad. Morning, everybody. I'm glad to be part of the group. I'm in Sydney. My app is one, hopefully to save a life, and maybe if it saves one life, it might save multiple lives. But it's to do with people that go missing. With an app that will have the ability to notify management services or emergency services in public arenas and other users of the app. The more eyes that are looking, the better. What would I do with my time? I was fortunate enough to visit Tahiti once, and yeah, that looks like a really nice place for retirement. So yeah.
Good spot to be, I reckon. Well done.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Unlimited time and resources. What would you be spending your time on, Russell?
Oh, writing music and sitting in Tahiti with my guitar.
Brilliant.
Beautiful.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, funnily enough, we do have a client that we're working with quite closely with who spent half his time in Vanuatu. So it's definitely an achievable outcome for you.
Yeah. If I can escape the cold, that'd be nice.
Wonderful. Eliza, you're the final one to go, and if you got your camera on too. Are you there, Eliza? She's in the call. We got Mahmoud too. Are you there, Mahmoud?
I think Mahmoud said in the chat later that earlier that he didn't have any camera or speaker.
Yeah.
Maybe that's different now.
Okay. Oh, that's Mahmoud. Yeah.
And just at the moment, Eliza's having some microphone problems as well.
Okay. We might have to come back to you guys, Mahmoud and Eliza, maybe in the next week's session.
Next time.
Yeah, awesome. So I'll go back into my screen share. So yeah, I want to give you guys an overview of what we will be covering in Germinate over the coming weeks. Yeah. So pretty much what we have come up with in the Germinate program is to focus on what investors look for, particularly in early stage startups, right? So when you go to VC, when you already have a business and you have a lot of growth, a lot of customers, they're looking for different things, right? But when we go to them in a stage where we don't have a product yet, or we don't have a lot of paying customers yet, that's a different set of things they look at, right? So the program is designed to help you with that and get you investor ready, right? So some of the fundamental things we'll be looking at is, the first one is, the investors want to see that you guys have thoroughly researched and really understood your customers and the problems you're solving, right? And not just by your own thinking, but you actually have some evidence of it, right? They're going to be looking at evidence of, okay, how can you prove that you've understood your customers and their problem, right? And the way we're going to do that is through a framework called jobs to be done, right? That will be going to be one of the fundamental things we'll be covering. Next week's session is going to be on jobs to be done. It's basically a customer need analysis and problem identification framework, right? The framework is followed by some of the most successful companies in the world, like Uber, Airbnb. All those big companies now follow this framework in terms of identifying customer needs. So we'll be going through that in the next week's session, right? The second one is the market size and how your app is going to be positioned within that market, right? So once you know that you have a problem that is worth solving, the next step from there is there a big enough market for the problem you're solving, right? If there's only 1,000 people who are wanting the problem solved, then maybe there's not a big enough market, right? So we're going to be looking at how can we again have evidence, right? It's not just you saying there's a big enough market, but how can we show with evidence to your investors that there is a big enough market for this idea, right? And if there is a big enough market, obviously there's going to be other players, right? There might not be a direct competitor. There might not be exactly the same app, but there might be alternative solutions and products and tools that customers might be using to solve that problem, right? Because if the problem exists, it's likely there are other solutions that exist, right? So how is your product positioned across the existing alternatives that the customers have? And how can you show evidence that you have done that? And the way you're going to do that is using some research. We have access to some big data platforms where we can find data around the market size of your app. We're going to help you run some basic surveys. In the third week session, we will be covering some surveys, looking at the existing alternatives in the market and analyzing and finding your position among all the other options that your customers have to solve that problem today, right? So that's the second main element we'll be looking at in the Germinate program. The third one is traction, right? Investors want to get into a moving train, right? They want to see that you're making progress and that you're going to be moving ahead regardless, right? So they don't want to work with someone who just had an idea and did nothing about it, right? So you guys, by working with us, you'll likely have a prototype or a product. We're going to show you how to build some community engagement, how to have some user signups on the landing page. So you're going to again show the investors, hey, look at this. I'm actually making progress. There is traction with my business, right? That's a third element. And then the fourth one is having a scalable business model and a business plan, right? If you had a clear path on how you're going to grow the business, what kind of revenue you can achieve, what kind of profitability and scale you can achieve, and how you can do that. So we do that by showing you Lean Business Canvas, which is a popular business planning method. Like, when you're in early stage, you don't want a 100-page business plan. So Lean Business Canvas helps you plan your whole business in just like a simple one page. And we'll be showing you different go-to-market strategies when it comes to apps and websites around, be it App Store optimization, using partner channels and things like that. So we'll be covering that as well. And then storytelling, right? Another thing that investors will be looking for at this early stage is your story, right? You want to be able to share why you're doing this, right? Why you and why this problem in a way that investors can connect with your story and feel like you actually care about the problem. You actually care about that, right? And how can you tell that in a story format, right? So we have a unique special storytelling method we'll teach you during this program, and you use that to tell your story and also to present your pitch deck with that. And then finally, getting all the investment ready documents. So this will be like your exit goal, your funding terms, how much you're going to raise, where will you use the money, how much equity you will give up in your business for that money that you're raising. So all the financial details around the deal, the investment deal that you'll be looking to do, and what are the terms that you'll be doing that investment with, right? That all in the shareholder agreement. So we'll be going through a sample shareholder agreement with you, covering all the terms that you need to be prepared. So you're just entering into a relationship with the investor with all the T's and C's on your side. So yeah, they are the fundamental elements that we'll be covering over the next 2 to 3 months. So from there, I want to go into talking a little bit about App Store. Before I go into that, any quick questions on the overview itself?
No, I'm clear on that.
Cool. So yeah, so we'll move on. We'll have a at least 20 minutes at the end to have a Q&A session as well. So yeah, maybe if you have questions, write them down somewhere and we can go through that in the end as well. So let's talk about the App Store market itself, right? So App Store and Play Store are just growing exponentially, as we all know, right? They are the largest markets at the moment in human history. You can see here on the graph in 2023, the total Apple services revenue is in par with Fortune 500 companies, right? $95,000 billion. That's how much transaction have gone through App Store, right? It's as big as companies like Tesla and P&G and Boeing, right? There is in total 5.7 million apps, right? In-app ads alone, businesses have spent $109 billion on paying for ads within apps App Store apps and Play Store apps, right? And on average, every user has about 40 apps installed on their phone, right? And there is 150 million annual subscribers for apps, right? So the market is huge. Just by being on App Store and Play Store, you can reach 5 billion customers across 180 countries, right? So that's why this industry is growing at the pace it is, right? It's a huge opportunity ahead of us in terms of the market and how much is available within this space, right? A quick comparison on iOS and Android app revenue. On the left side, what you see on the graph is the combined revenue of Apple and Google. You can see it's growing from $43 billion in 2016 to $135 billion. You can see there's a bit of plateau in 2021-22 with COVID and stuff, but it's projected to again grow in the same rate as we move towards 2023. And what is devices, right? So people who use Apple devices generally have a higher willingness to spend compared to Android users. So that's just a quick revenue comparison. And I want to show you guys some of the apps in different categories and how much they are making, right? So as you might know, in App Store and Play Store, there are different categories, right? And within each category, there are a lot of apps, that are doing reasonably well to really well, right? So we put some of the successful apps within each of the category. So within health and fitness app, there are some meditation apps that are doing really well. So Headspace actually has their office here in Melbourne. They have a team of about 25 people in their Melbourne office. It's a meditation app, and they are doing $25 million in revenue from App Store and Play Store, right? Think Up is a affirmation app. It's a very simple app. All it does is just have some affirmation on different categories like love and relationships, stress, self-confidence. You go to the app and you can listen to affirmations. You can record and create your own affirmation as well. In our marketing team, Tegan, who you'll be listening from him in one of the sessions, he's actually working on marketing for this guy. They're just a 3-person team, right? One founder, 2 developers, and then they have some external marketing help, and they're doing over $1 million in turnover at the moment. LastPass, you might have heard about that. It's a password remembering app. So instead of they're solving the problem of managing too many passwords, right? You can save all the password in one app, and you can use that app to log in into any apps by managing all the passwords in that one password app, LastPass. They're doing 3.5 mil. Fishbrain is basically a fishing app. It's been in operation maybe for 6-7 years now. They help people into fishing connect with other people and also find locations and spots where they can go for fishing, right? So they've been super successful. In fact, there's at least 4 apps in the fishing space that's all doing more than $1 million in revenue at the moment. So FishBrain is one of the successful ones. They are doing $9 million in revenue, right? Todoist is a task planning app, just a task checklist app. They're doing $2 million in revenue. Headway is a reading app. Basically, they give you like a short version of all the books. So instead of reading a full book, you can go into this app and read a 10-minute, 20-minute summary version of different books, right? Headway, yeah, they're doing $26 million in turnover. So you can see the opportunity with these apps within each of these categories, right? And our goal is, you guys can get into these kind of sizes in a reasonable time. So what makes this app business and software business unique, right? How is the scale achievable, right? So there are a set of factors, we call it the app economic factors. There are a set of factors that makes the app business and software business very unique compared to traditional business, right? Doughty, in your example, compared to running a grocery business, how does having a marketplace app or a website compared to having a grocery business? What is unique to these type of business, right? The first one, and it's important for you guys to understand these factors because you want to make sure you're building this in. You want to understand how your business is ticking all these factors, because when investors, especially if you're looking for professional investors like VCs, when they come in, they're going to be looking for, okay, does this app have unit economics? Does this app have a lock-in effect? Does it have a network effect? So they're going to be looking at all these, factors, right? So the first one, unit economics, right? What that is if you think about any traditional business, every time you service a customer, there is a cost, right? If you think about a car manufacturer, you're building a new car when you have a new customer, right? There is a cost associated with fulfilling every single customer, right? What is, if you think about a restaurant business, you're making food. That is a product cost. That's bulk expense associated with every single customer in terms of delivering what the customer needs, right? What's unique about app and software business is there's a large upfront business in setting up your app and setting up your software. But once you set it up, your marginal cost to add your 100th customer, 101st customer, 102nd customer is almost negligible because you have your app, you go to App Store and download the app, right? That's obviously your server cost might increase, but that's marginal, right? You can go from having 100 customers today to having 200 customers tomorrow without having to build your product for every single of the customers, right? That's the key element of app and software business and why it makes this business so scalable and so attractive, right? Once you build it, once it starts working for 100 people, you can just rapidly scale it to 1,000 people, 10,000 people, right? It's just making it work for your first 100 customers, building the product and making it work. That's the challenge. And once you get that, you're going to have scalability that is not possible in any other business model, right? That's where you can go and do your sports and you're having new customers downloading and using your app and you're not doing anything to serve those new customers, right? That unit economics is super valuable, right? And the bigger you grow, the cost even becomes lesser and lesser in terms of adding new customers into the business, right? The second one is the ability to distribute your app. Again, we talked about like App Store and Play Store being available in over 190 countries. $5 billion consumers, or you can pretty much distribute to the population across the world, right? So you have a channel to reach customers through their phones directly. So that ability to distribute, if you think about any physical product, how are you going to reach someone in the UK? Like you think about the factors involved in getting your product to someone's hand who's in another country, let alone even another city, right? With the app, you can reach customers in one corner of the world without having to do anything more other than just making the app simply available on the App Store and Play Store in their country, right? So the distribution is a key factor. So, I know you guys are thinking about Australian market to begin with, but when you want to expand internationally, there's nothing stopping you from doing that when you have app business, right? Now the third factor is the lock-in effect, right? What this talks to is is like, that when customers want to switch from a competitor product to your product, or from one product to a different product, there is a switching cost, right? And the lock-in effect comes in when the switching cost to go from one to other is so big that even if the other product is better, you don't want to switch because it's too hard, right? So the cost of switching is higher than the benefit of moving to a competitor, right? So you kind of lock them in. So it stops people from moving to your competitor. So these apps create that lock-in effect, right? So if you think of an example, I'm using Xero as my accounting app for my business, right? 12 years of my business data is in that app, right? Now, if I go into another accounting software, I would lose all the data. And if I want to move all the 10 years of my business data into another accounting software, that's going to be a massive task, right? So that's going to stop me from switching to a competition, right? So the harder it is to switch, the longer your customers are going to stay with your business, with your app, right? So that's the lock-in effect, right? And how can you create lock-in? Like I said, data is a big one, right? CRM, we use HubSpot as a CRM. All our customer data are there, all our call recordings are there. So if I'm moving into another CRM, I would lose all the data. If I want to migrate it, it's a pain. So I would rather not switch, right? Another way you can create lock-in effect is users, right? Like if you take a grocery app as an example, if one of the merchants is in your website, Philly, and if they have 100 200 customers who are buying from them using your platform, it might stop them from just going and listing on another platform, right? Or if you think of Facebook as an example, you have all your friends and family on that platform, and if I want to switch to another platform, I would lose my friends and family, so I would just stick with that platform, right? So the users and the connections that you have is another way you can create the lock-in, right? Setup. So when you start using a software, there's often setup involved. Again, HubSpot is a great example. We have to spend a bunch of time in setting up, making it work for my business. And then I don't want to do all the setup again, right? So to avoid the setup, again, people might stick with the same product. And then the training of the app itself, right? There's always a learning curve when you start using an app, and once you're like 1 month, 2 months, 3 months into the app, you get familiar with the features and how to use the app. And then when you switch to a new app, there's a learning that's involved, right? So you don't want to go and learn something new. So you might want to stick with the same product. So there are different elements how you can bring lock-in into your product. So you want to think about those factors. And then the last one is the network effect, right? This is when the idea that the product becomes more valuable when there are more people in your app. So if you think about Amazon as an example, right? As a merchant, if you're going and selling on Amazon, when they have from both sides, right? When you have 30,000 potential customers on Amazon, and then 1 year later, there is 100,000 users. So the more users there is, the more beneficial it is for the merchant. And same for the customer. The more merchants there are, the more valuable Amazon is to me, right? It's the same product, but you can see how the more merchants who are listed in Amazon, the product itself becomes more valuable to me, right? Same with social media, ticketing platform. The more customers using the platform, the more valuable it is for the businesses who are selling it, right? So yeah, so in the app world, the network effect plays a huge role in terms of as you grow, the product becomes more valuable. And then PLG, or product-led growth. That's again unique to app business, right? If you think about a traditional business like car, your car is not going to sell you. It can't act as a marketing or a sales engine for you, right? Whereas with the app, your product could act as your marketing engine, can act as your salesperson, right? If you think about the classic example is the Dropbox file sharing app, right? When I download the app, I share a file with someone, and the invitation will go with the request to create an account on Dropbox, right? So you acquired one customer. So Dropbox had spent a bunch of money on their marketing. They acquired me as a customer, and now I'm inviting other people to come and look at the file that I'm sharing with them. And just by virtue of using the product, I'm getting more users into the product, right? And that concept is called product-led growth. Again, we'll be diving a bit more into these topics in the go-to-market session. But these are the key factors, right? I want you guys to understand that and how these factors make the app business very unique to traditional businesses, right? And this is where the opportunity is, right? And when all these factors are at play, the unit economics, the cost going down as you grow, the unit cost of adding an extra customer, the lock-in effect playing, then the faster you grow, the network effect, making the product more valuable. When this all played together, what happens is when one product starts winning and starts growing, they get this unique advantage and they start to take the whole market, right? It becomes harder and harder for new entrants to come into the market, right? So it's, it makes it important then to grow at a reasonable speed when you are in this space, right? Because once a particular product gets ahead in the market, so once you start getting ahead in the market, you can stay ahead, right? It becomes harder for the competitor to then get in once someone gets ahead, right? So we call it the winner takes all market, right? If you think about the taxi example, Uber is now dominating the market. For someone to come in and have the same number of taxis and same number of drivers, it's going to be pretty hard, right? Same with Facebook. You already have all your friends and everyone there. So for a new person to come in, they have lock-in, they have network effect. It's more valuable because there's just over 1 billion people on Facebook. So they have all these factors which makes them take the whole social media market, right? And it makes it harder for a new person to come in, right? And that's where the niche comes in, right? Taking again Uber as an example. Within that, then what you do is you look at a niche within that bigger segment and try to be a winner within that niche. So now within taxi, there's like Shiba, which is a Melbourne-based, Australian-based startup, which is a Uber-like app just focused on female passengers and female Uber drivers, right? So they're trying to dominate the space of taxi, but within the niche of women drivers and women passengers, right? So these are all important factors for you guys to consider and something that investors will be looking for, right? When they look at your app. So we looked at all the amazing sides of app, like what makes apps so exciting, so lucrative. We saw all these examples of apps all doing $1 million, $90 million in turnover. There's also the other side of app economics, right? Like Zain shared initially, that is the level of risk in entering into this, right? So the stats shows 80 to 90% of app startups fail, right? But that's not very different compared to any business, right? So Bureau of Labor suggests that 2 out of 10 new businesses fail. So it doesn't matter what business you start, the success rate of a startup of starting a new business is 10 to 20%, right? So in that way, apps are not like inherently a lot more riskier compared to other businesses in terms of success rate, right? But there is a small percentage of apps that become successful. Not every app that goes into the market becomes successful, right? It's important to recognize that risk, right? And the other risk to consider is the acquisition cost, right? There is a cost to acquire users, right? So once you build the app, you're going to be spending on advertisements or whatever the action is to acquire users, right? So at the moment, we looked at some market stats based on our most recent experience. It could range anywhere from $1 to $6 per install of the app, right? Again, it might look cheap, but again, if 100 people install, out of that, only like 50% might go on and sign up for your app. And out of that, only a small percentage to go on to pay and become a customer, right? And with more and more social media and more competition, more apps coming in, the user acquisition cost is increasing too, right? So that's the two fundamental risk elements that we need to consider and to plan for, right? So here is some data on what percentage of apps are getting a significant amount of downloads. So you can see like in App Store, like I said, there are so many different categories, right? but only like 14%, 15% of the apps in each category is getting more than 10,000 downloads, right? So you can see you need to be in the top 15% of apps within your category if you want to have more than 10,000 downloads for your app. And again, only 5% of the apps are having more than 100,000 downloads, right? Again, when you look at percentage, it looks pretty low, but still, there is, if you consider there is 5 million apps on just App Store, 5% of that is 250,000. So combining App Store and Play Store, there is 500,000 apps that are having more than 100,000 downloads, right? That's a crazy number of apps that has more than 100,000 downloads. But again, only from percentage point of view, you can see the competition is intense. There are so many apps that are just waiting for consumers' attention, right? People go into the app stores and there's apps right, left, and center, right? So though there is a lot of apps that are getting 100,000 plus downloads, in comparison to how many apps are there, it's not a lot, right? So it's important to recognize that we're entering into a competitive space and we need to be doing a great job to be able to get the customer's attention and to be able to get them to download it, sign up, and pay for your app, right? So yeah, there are some download numbers. So what's our mission with Germinate program? Our mission, your mission, is to get you guys in that top 15% that succeeds, right? So the first time founder success rate is about 16%, and we saw 80 to 90% of the apps fail. So the 15%, the top 15% is the one that becomes successful, right? So how can we get you in the top 15%? That's our mission, and your mission working with us, right? And our goal is also to increase your chances of success, right? If we can 5x your chances of success, you're already entering into this into this game with the 15% probability of success. If you can 5 times that by doing all the right things, by using all the learnings we have had in the last 12 years of doing this, and if you can 5 times that, then you're 80% of probability of success. And we know, looking at all the reasons for why app businesses fail, the top 2 ones, 75% of the time, the block is either due to lack of market demand. So they launch the app and then they realize there is not enough demand for the product, right? Or the second one is they ran out of cash. They didn't have the fund to keep it going, right? That's pretty much the top 2 reasons. 75 to 80% of the time, they can't go ahead because of those 2 reasons, right? One is there's not enough demand. The second one is there's not enough money to keep going, right? And our focus in Germinate is to mitigate that, right? So using jobs to be done, survey, all the approaches, we're going to make sure whatever we are building has enough demand, or we look at there is demand and we are building something that talks to the existing demand in the market. So we tick that box and we teach you all the funding skills. So you can, even if you personally run out of your own money, you know how to go and access external funding to keep your business going, right? So with that, what we're going to do is we're going to start with a little exercise. So that's the kind of information part for today. So we're going to do a little activity part now. And we'll go into a Q&A session as well. So where we want to start this whole Germinate program with is the problem, right? I know we have already made some progress with you guys, with some of you guys. We already designed the prototype, but your fundraising plan, your marketing, go-to-market strategy, all of that is independent of your idea, right? They're all based on the problem that you're solving, right? So as a founder, if you're obsessed with the problem that you're solving, rather than identifying yourself too much with your idea, then that's a great place to start, right? Because the problem is not going anywhere, right? The problem is there, right? So even if there's a slight shortfall in your idea in the future, we can always, if we come back to the problem and if we solve the problem well, and if it's a big enough problem, then we can make it work, right? So we're gonna start with the problem and not the idea, right? So that's the core and foundation to all the sessions that's upcoming in the next weeks as well, right? So we're gonna do, I'm gonna put you guys in breakout room. I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes to think about the workflow or the current experience of events of your app. So I'll give you guys an example. So if you think about the as an example, the problem that this specific app, in this case study that I'm showing you guys, if the job or the problem they are solving is to help teams that work in office or work together in one location, the app is to help them order lunch at work every day, right? Again, it's an assumption. Let's say that's the problem you're solving, right? If that's the job you're trying to solve with your app, what is the flow of events, right? What is the workflow, right? Because one of the key challenges with when you go into software development or app development business is you always faced with this question of what about this feature, right? What about that feature? And often the answer is, oh yeah, why not? Why not? And then the product ends up becoming bloated and too much, to be able to make it successful, right? So you need, once you understand the workflow of what's involved, what's the flow of events for customers in that problem or in that job, and you get clear on where your product starts, like at what point your product starts and at what point of the flow of events does your product stop, right? And you let other players to take care of the problem before and after that, so you know your place within that workflow, right? Again, looking at the example here, would look something like this, right? Someone in the team gets hungry, right? And then they communicate to the rest of the team through WhatsApp or through in person. They go, hey, who wants to eat? I'm hungry, right? And then they start having a debate about, should we order in or should we go out? And then they decide, okay, we're going to order online, right? And then they go where to order from. Then they pick the restaurant. And then they make a decision together. And then there's one person who's responsible for gathering everyone's order and placing the order, right? Then the assigned person actually places the order. And then the person communicates, okay, this is what the total cost is. We are expecting the food in an hour. An hour passes by. The person collects everyone's money, pays the bill, and checks if everyone is paid and sees who still owes money. And then the finances are settled. And then someone might talk about the food on Twitter, and someone might post the food on Instagram. Everyone goes back to work. So you can see, within that team ordering lunch, that's the flow of events that happens in their workflow, right? And if you think about, who the user of this problem or the job is, right? There is always a primary user. Not always. There's often, there could be just one type of user, or that could be one primary user, and then there's multiple secondary users that's involved in the problem, right? So if you think about this example, the primary user could be the one who is getting everyone's order, managing the communication, placing the order, right? And then the secondary person could be people who are just seeing the status of where their food is at, paying their money. They are the secondary users who are also involved, right? And if a business pays for this app, you can see the economic buyer is the business, because they are paying for this app for their team to have access to this app, right? So there could be a primary user who's the main user of the app. There could be secondary users who are getting some additional subsidiary functionalities. And that could be a different economic buyer if it's a business app who's paying for it, but they're not actually using the app. So there could be 3 different users, right? And when you look at this workflow and think about, okay, where does my app would start and stop? In this case, for example, you might choose this app would come in once they made a decision on where to order from, right? So it could start at step 4 or 5, right? You don't want to build a product to have the conversation about where to eat or what to eat, right? They might do that on WhatsApp, because if you start to build that, then you're competing against Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp that they are currently using to do the conversation and discussion, right? So you might go, okay, my product starts at step 4 in that flow of events, and it might finish at, step 13 once the finances are settled, or maybe at step 14 once they have, shared the food they ate on their Facebook or Twitter profile, which might act as a product-led growth strategy to then invite more users back into the app. So hope that gives sense of what we are talking about. So what we're gonna do is just spend 5 minutes. I'm just gonna let you guys spend 5 minutes, and then get you guys to share what you come up with in terms of the flow of events for your app. Before we go into that, I'll just stop the screen share and ask if you guys have any questions in doing that exercise.
Yeah, no, I've got a fairly clear understanding. So what I've come up with is my problems are communication, access, accuracy, ease of use, lack of information, misinterpretation. And
Yeah, awesome. I was going to say, Nathan, I'll just give few minutes for people to just think about that as well. So I would invite you to guys.
And basically, because
just think about that for another few minutes as well. And then I'm actually going to.
Because my problems exist at the planning stage of the process, I believe I cover all floors from planning to implementation. So
sure.
I think is that what I'm supposed to get out of that?
Yeah, exactly. That's what you're doing. But you're gonna just write down a bit more details of what exactly happens at the moment, right? You don't have to think about your app, but you go what happens on a work day in terms of planning, right? So for example, people arrive at work, step 1, right? Step 2, I don't know, the business owner, the business finds a new customer who wants a road planning, right? The team leader finds out the address and the nature of the job, right? Step 4, he finds out how many people are needed. Like, I don't know what actually happens, but that's what you're going to think about, because you're a team leader. You know exactly what happens in terms of step-by-step flow of events, right? Involved in actually planning.
So the fact that it goes from the planner to an allocator to a team leader.
Yeah. So you're gonna write the entire flow involved from where do you think it starts, right? At what point this whole planning starts, right? So again, we can use this conversation, guys, for the rest of your learning as well. So Nathan is building a road safety planning app or a traffic planning app. So where do you think it starts, Nathan? What's the first step of that process?
So at the planning process. So that's where I say my problems exist at the planning stage and carry right through to the implementation stage.
And what starts the planning stage? What specific event starts the planning stage?
A customer's requirements.
Yeah, and how does the customer requirement come through to you?
Pardon?
How does the customer requirement come to you at the moment? At the moment, like the customer just ring you and tell you, hey, this is what I want. They just call you, or
that's what I assume what happens. That's above the process. So we're below that process. So
that's where the start would be then. So when you're handed a job and a project.
Yes, you know what I mean. So the acquiring of that customer for the planning is not really in my area of concern. My area of concern is at the planning stage of the project and down from there. So
well, then we'd start step 1 would be customer acquisition.
So you'd say that would be step number 2, because you acquire your customer first, then you do your plan. So I would say I would start on second floor level and carry on through all levels through implementation all the way through to the pack up stage.
Awesome. I think you got it straight.
That's bang on. Yeah.
We'll any other questions from anyone else? So I would like you guys to take a few minutes and then basically write it down, either on your computer or on a document, or do it on a note and pen, and then you'll have the opportunity to share it as well to the group. So anyone else, any specific questions about this little exercise we're doing?
go,
So-
Gareth.
Good
So
to-
Yeah, no questions from me. I just need to go and grab my other notebook that I've got most of this stuff written down in, so I don't skip anything.
Sure.
Worries.
Okay, I'm gonna give you guys just 5 minutes to think about that and work through that. And then we're gonna come back in 5 minutes, and then we'll have an opportunity to share.
Philly, did you have a question as well?
yes, I did. When you said step by step, are you basically saying step from the concept of the idea, step 2, as in where you put the process of getting the idea started, step 3, avoid the headaches you're getting from. Is that what you mean?
Even more
No,
simplistic
I'm
than that,
talking
mate.
about the
Yeah.
flow of. I'll just show the example again that we talked about, right? Can you see my screen now?
Yeah.
So we're just talking about the workflow or the flow of events that happens around the problem you're solving, right? So in your case, because you have 2 types of users, you might have to write the steps for both the users, right? So as an example, from a consumer, ordering point of view, when do you think they think about making an order on that app, right? Let's say they are trying to cook something and then they realize they don't have ABC, whatever the item is, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And then what do they do as the next step, right? They again, currently they might not have the app, right? So they might have a conversation with their wife or their partner to go, hey, what else do we need to buy, right?
Mm.
This is an insight into my life, Barack. Every night.
Insight into your life. That's what we're trying to do, right? Because oftentimes we get lost in the features and functionalities of the app that we forget what is actually happening in the user's life. Right? So what we're trying to do here is the step-by-step flow of events in the user's life, right? Someone thinks to recognize someone is missing, they have a conversation, they drive to the nearest grocery, they don't have a grocery they already go to, they do a Google research and find out where they want to go to. They buy. Similarly, like you think about what happens from the grocery perspective as well in the problem you're solving, right? Let's say the problem you're solving is to help them find customers or find sales. Again, you think about like what's the flow of events within that.
Okay. So put yourself in the customer's shoes, for example.
Exactly. And think about the step-by-step events. It doesn't have to be specific to your app, but to the problem that you're solving. Right? So in the current scenario, in the current world, without your app or using another option, what is happening in their life at the moment in terms of the problem you're solving?
And then where does your app come in at what point?
Yeah. Does it help, Philly?
In a way, yeah. I'm just brainstorming it now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This exercise is not to be perfect right now as well. This is about thinking critically of what the steps are that take to solve that problem. This isn't going to be 100% accurate. This is what the whole process of the Germinate program is, that we learn with each other, right? So do your best. We're not expecting it to be perfect at this point in time, right? And then we can kind of unlock that together as well.
Yeah, we can always iterate and adjust and grow and pad things out as we start to understand exactly the problem that we're solving in a more detailed way.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I'll give a couple more minutes for you guys, and then I'm gonna let you guys share in pair.
They're giving us time to get things achieved between things. Yeah, 12:30. You just on toast. You just. Oh. Oh, cool.
Barath, could you put that slide up again, please?
So,
That about.
right. We'll come back, guys. I was gonna put you guys in pair, but I think it's easier. We'll do a couple in group so we can talk about it and people can learn from that too. Is there anyone who wants to share what they worked out? Like Zain said, there is no perfect answer. We just want to have a right start. So that's going to be your exercise for this week as well. So after this session, you're going to go and work on that a bit more, and then share what you worked out with us before the next session. That's going to be your main homework or main task to do this week. Does anyone want to have a go in terms of what they worked out?
I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
I hope I've got this right. If I'm describing the problem, I guess I'm asking, could you describe to me a person or pet in your full-time or part-time care if they went missing? So my experience has been that if someone's lost a child, given the anxiety that comes with it, where they've gone, what's happened to them, not being able to think clearly enough, would they know who to contact? How long do they wait? Time is of the essence. And this is, so I think the problem is more than just one-fold, but if the app has prompted them previously to take photos because it detected that they've entered into a public arena, or the app's detected through their calendar that they are leaving for an event. And if the app prompts them to take a photo of who's in their care at that time, should it be necessary, then should that person go missing, they would have that information on hand and be able to disseminate it to the important parties that require it, plus other users in the area.
Great. What that's amazing. But what we're also trying to do in this exercise is we are trying to map their current workflow, right? What is happening in their, that's what Zain was saying before, like we're not going into your app solution yet, right? We are trying to really go into the users' events in their life that's happening at the moment, right? So in your case, it could look like, you know, someone is going to an event, right? Going to a festival. And then 2 hours later, they are walking down, they recognize that their kid is missing. Right? They, step 3, they ask the next, 3 person that's close to them to go, have you seen someone, 3-year-old with a red t-shirt on, right? 20 minutes passes on, they panic now, they decide to ring the police, right? And they don't have that information, right? So we are just going deeper into what is the experience now, right? What is the problem? What is their life now without your app? Like what's happening, and then we are gonna plug in your solution into that, right? That's why I said you already made some of the progress already with the design team, so it's easy to go into the product. But as a step 1, for us to do the jobs to be done interview, for us to do the problem validation and customer needs, to go, okay, someone is really experiencing this problem, they will pay for this. We're going to go into that without depending on your app, right? We're going to create that evidence to go, this is a real problem, this is what is actually happening, and we're going to demonstrate the understanding that you have of your customers, right? I invite you to do that again, but just thinking about what is happening in their life at the moment.
I can try mine. Okay. My step 1. Well, basically we marketed the platform, the app, basically, so someone already knows about it. Step 1, someone's hungry, which is either the wife or whatnot, wants to cook. The husband asks, or sorry, let me start again. Okay. Someone's hungry, which is the husband. I mean, the husband and the wife, but can't go out to go and shop. She's pregnant. And then he or she communicates to the husband, where can we order from? He asks, hey, we got a duty app where we can order a grocery. Would you like to cook, or would you like to eat a fast food app? They come to the decision of ordering grocery from duty, which they place the order, gets delivered. and there's a concept. Is that the concept you're talking about, or
Awesome.
off
Yeah.
the mark?
No, you're not off the mark. Yeah, you can just go into a bit more details of that.
Okay.
Right. So go into a bit more depth about like what happens in between each of those steps.
Okay. What happens between each step, they decide what to order from, which is the app. They download the app. They go through what grocery or what spice they want to order together. They put it in the basket. They order it, check out, and in minute or 30 to 20 minutes, the order get delivered. They receive it in good order, spice it up, throw together, happy customer.
That's what is happening at the moment.
Yeah, so a little bit of feedback from that, for the purpose of this, remove the app out of what you've just created. So that concept that you've done there, remove the app. So what's currently happening is, hey, we're trying to cook a roast. We don't have potatoes. What do we do to be able to get potatoes? We have a discussion about potatoes. Who's going to go get the potatoes? Someone leaves to go get the potatoes. Person goes to grocery store to get potatoes. Person needs to find potatoes. Then person grabs potatoes, puts the potatoes in basket, goes to pay, goes to checkout, pays money, transaction complete, takes potatoes, puts the potatoes in car, drives car back home, gives potatoes to cook potatoes. That's basically what we're talking here. So you can see that was at least 13 steps that has been created just for a potato.
Yeah.
So the reason why we're doing this is we're growing the problem by seeing how many steps that are in there. Now, where is Judy going to come into it to reduce those steps?
Okay, I get that. Yeah. Okay, can I start again? Can I get the concept now?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So, okay, concept. Okay. The hungry couple, wife asks, hey, hungry, husband answered, okay, let's solve the answer. So he either writes a list down of the ingredients that she might need to cook. The husband heads down to the shop, gets in the car. Oh, no fuel, goes to the petrol station, asks a couple of fuels in there, goes to the grocery store, looks in the aisle, can't find the stuff that he's looking for, takes him 30 to 40 minutes, finally found the stuff he's looking for, goes to the counter, looks for the card he's looking for, pay cash or card, puts it in the bag, gets in the car, drive another 30 minutes to the house. Wife there almost half asleep, but wakes up, start cooking, and there you go. It's a long process, but and then the duty app will come in there with a shorter process of a quicker results. There you go. Is that it?
Yeah. Awesome. So we'll be making more sense next week why we are doing this.
Yeah.
Right?
We'll expand it even more.
So the jobs to be done framework that we'll be covering next week is going to let us investigate this process more, right? In an interview process with your customers, right? To understand the deeper problem that you're solving, right? So this will make sense more next week on what your understanding is. And then when you interview the customer, we're going to be finding like what's their real motivator to use the product, right? It's going to help in your go-to-market strategy. So all of that will make a lot more sense next week. So for now, yeah, you've done a great job. I would love you to write that down, Philly, in a document of all the flow that you've described in as much detail as you can. And before the next week's call, if you can have that ready, that would be awesome. And it'll make sense
Also,
how we will use that within the jobs we done framework.
I'll just suggest to everyone as well, the example that Barath gave is really great. And if you can kind of use it as a template to work out how the problem, like what happens for each of your businesses and each of the steps or each of the apps in your scenario that your app is solving the problem, then you can work out exactly where your app steps in to help. So it's really about what's happening in the customer's life before they come into contact with you and after they come into contact with you. And then we can work out exactly where we interact with it, if that makes sense. So use it definitely to, place your scenario on top of it in a way.
Thanks, Terry. Yeah, you can send that in the process in a Word format. Yes, please, Russell. Wonderful. Maybe we come to 12:05. If there is one more person who wants to share and just make sure they're going in the right angle, we'll wrap up with that. But that's going to be your task to do this week. Spend maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes on it again, write it down in a Word document, and then share that with us before the next call. So you'll all add it to a Slack channel. So you can email it to us, or we can actually go into Slack and put it there as well. Is there anyone else that wants to have a quick go before we wrap up today's session?
Gareth, I just have a question. Is the step-by-step guide that you were showing before, will that be sent to everyone, or can we
Yeah,
possibly put
we'll
it?
be sharing the deck with you guys. So
Great.
you'll have access to the whole deck.
I did write mine down, but I'm not too fussed whether you guys need to hear it or not. I've spoken to Zane a lot about it already, but I can go if you'd like me to. But
Yeah, I mean, share it. Yeah, go for it.
so I've probably got a solving a sort of similar sort of idea that Philly is, where it's a convenience problem. So group of people, well, I'll focus it on how I've done it in the past. So you've got someone who's got a group of friends, like to organise a sporting weekend or a sporting trip with that group. So the first step is to throw a message out there using whatever messenger to do that, engage the interest of who would be interested in going away, then waiting for replies from that group, nailing down who does want to come on the trip, what events and or teams and or sports that each person would like to see, what dates that everybody is available or not available to go away, what state, city, venue that you would want to travel to, or is that flexible? The costs that everybody is willing to pay for tickets to each of those events, because it does fluctuate quite a lot. Then once all the back and forth is done for all of that information gathering, then who it comes down to buy each lot of tickets for each event, because you can't have everybody go and buy themselves a ticket to an A-League game, because everybody will be sitting in a separate part of the stadium. So if there's 10 people, one person has to buy 10 tickets on their credit card. Then someone else might buy 10 tickets for the other event on their credit card. Then they're sending out bank details and hopefully getting everybody to reimburse them sooner rather than later, which in my experience doesn't always happen. So yeah, costs of tickets, purchasing tickets, download and distribution of the tickets, where some ticketing companies do really simple online ones where you just get a barcode sent to you that saves on your wallet on your phone. Other ticketing companies aren't up to scratch with that, where you'll get a PDF emailed to you, which you've got to download, save and distribute to everybody. So then, yeah, tickets need to be purchased all together, then reimbursed. And then, yeah, the ticket sharing is the big one at the end of that. But from my experience, the biggest problem with it was the how much we're spending on tickets, and how is everybody paying and being reimbursed for those tickets, to make sure that we're still all going as a group, and the idea is to be spending time together. So it's at the moment, that's pretty much the only way to do it. Sorry, I've just realised I've skipped a step going back there. So once you know what teams everybody wants to see, the only way currently to organise that is to basically download a season for each of the sports that you're interested in, and highlight the games and the rounds that you line up with your group. And then do more back and forth. So that's the problem.
That's awesome, Josh. Yeah, you got it. And then your problem, your workflow kind of stops once they have bought the tickets and settled the finance, or the experience involved in actually going to the sporting event and them actually going there as well.
We actually added to that, didn't we, Josh, later on?
Yeah, we have added to that, because the problem that that Zane brought up kind of does continue sometimes into your trip, where you might have, you might have other things built into this trip that accumulate costs as you're going as well, that we are able to build into the app. I know we're not talking about the app just yet, but
Yeah.
More costs, accommodation,
Nice.
meals, potentially flights and train rides and whatever else. But there's
so
definitely
it's important once we decide the workflow to know where it starts and where it stops as well, right? We don't want
so
to get
this
into
one
a
doesn't
place
stop
where there are
till
we don't want to get into space where there's already apps that are doing the job really well, right? If you think about flight comparison, there is Webjet, there are so many platforms for a comparison of flight cost and flight booking. So I think the part of doing this is knowing this is the flow of events in my customer's life, and this is where my product starts and this is where it finishes, right? So we know the boundary of where we are operating.
Yep.
Awesome, guys. I know we are 10 minutes out of it. We started 10 minutes late because of the technical things, but we've gone 10 minutes over.
Sorry.
Thank you for all your time. So we'll wrap up today's session. We'll see you again next week, same time on Zoom. So your home task do this week, I want to use the word home to do during this week is to write this up in a Word document, send this across to us. On the third week, we'll open the Miro board for you and we'll show you how to use that as well. But for now, just put it in a Word document and share it with us before next week's session.
Don't be afraid to ask questions in the Slack channel as well. That's what it's there for.
So feel free to, correct. Thanks, Zane. Thanks for the reminder. Any questions, pop it there. But if you guys had any burning questions now, we can answer that. Otherwise, we'll wrap up. Cool. I think that's a wrap. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much for your time. And we are super excited. Looking forward to the rest of the sessions with all of you.
Thanks, team. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a great Tuesday.
Awesome. Thank you all so much.